Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the TV Tray Sessions here at Guitar Talk with Todd. Wow, we are actually live for the first time today. At least I hope we are. I'm going to check my YouTube connection here as well because I'm wondering if this is actually really happening. You never know, right? But anyways, if any of you are out there checking it out, go ahead and comment. We're on here today to celebrate 500 subscribers that we have finally hit. In the grand scheme of things, I know that's not. I look on these YouTube channels and there's like 5 million subscribers. But in the grand scheme of things, our YouTube channel is pretty new. So we're just going to celebrate as we go along here with the different things that achievements that we reach. So 500 subscribers. Thank you all first and foremost for helping me get there. I post weekly content, sometimes more than weekly. Mainly guitars, hence the term Guitar Talk. And but I started doing the TV Tray Sessions, which is what this is, a little while ago to kind of branch out and just it's all guitar related. You won't see anything that or anyone on here that doesn't really play guitar or isn't related to it in some way, but and just great music, memorabilia, pieces like that. And so first and foremost, thank you to all of you for helping me get to 500. I know that's not a big thing, but like I said, we're still pretty new, so I'm pretty proud of that. And thank you all. If you're on board today with me, comment. I'd love to hear from you. Today's Hank Williams' 100th birthday, so we're going to talk about that. I got a guest we're bringing on here in a little bit. My buddy Randy, who's a fellow guitar player and music lover as well. But it is Hank's 100th birthday, born in 1923, which is just crazy. And man, Hank has made like a huge impact on the hey Simon, what's up, my friend? Thanks for checking in. Victor. Man, this is great. I finally get to come out here live with some of you guys. What's going on, Victor? Thanks for checking in. Like I said, it's Hank's 100th birthday today. I know obviously he's not here anymore, but it's his heavenly birthday. And so we're going to talk about some books. We got things that are coming up real quick. I want to just talk to you guys about. Make sure you get down to Reggie's for the Fleetwood Mac in Chicago book. If you don't have this book, definitely pick it up. You can pick it up that night, November 12th at Reggie's in Chicago. This is just an awesome book. You guys know I love this. Jeff Lowenthal and Robert Schaffner, my friends, they'll be there that night signing these books. The Blues Crusaders will be playing some music, and then Connie and I are going to be doing an acoustic set at 7 p.m. Blues Crusaders go on at 8 p.m. And in between all that, Jeff and Bob will be signing books and stuff. So we're going to talk about that more in a little bit here too. But definitely plan on coming down and joining us. Reggie's in Chicago, November 12th. I'll put the link below to everything, down here. Great book. Yes, Simon, it is. This book is awesome. If you don't have it, you need to get it. Bob, we have Robert Schaffner in the chat room now. Thanks for checking in, Bob. Like I said, he'll be there, and Jeff as well. And they'll be playing. The Blues Crusaders will be playing, and Connie and I will be getting things started at 7 p.m. that night with an acoustic set. So get down and join us if you love Fleetwood Mac era with Peter Green, Danny Kerwin, that whole thing, which I know that's obviously not as well known with the general public, but get down there and join us because it's always a great time, and it will be a great time. So we'll be talking about that some more today. Like I said, it's Hank Williams' 100th birthday. And what else we got going on here? It was B.B. King's 98th birthday yesterday, which y'all know I was super tight with B. So we'll be talking about that a little bit. I do want to talk about Dion. I posted a couple hours ago on this channel. Just scroll through. I did a great interview with Dion a couple years back. It came out in print and online. And wow, we have the wait, All About Music. Who's that? we have the address for Reggie's. Good idea. 2105 South State Street. Get down there. On November 12th. It's going to be a great night. what was I talking about? BB King. Yes, we're going to be, it was his 98th birthday yesterday. So it's kind of hard to believe those guys were only 2 years apart. Hank Williams was born 1923. BB was born 1925, but we lost Hank so early. It just seems like he should be older. But it's kind of weird that there was only 2 years difference between Hank Williams and BB King. It's like, wow, that's kind of interesting to think about. Real quick, you guys, grab your coffee. Of course, I almost forgot the coffee. I am drinking in a I'm just gonna keep looking cute Star Wars mug because that's what it's all about for me. But we got the Baby Yoda going on the other side. So, but this mug really is about me. But anyway, hold on, guys. I know you think I'm drinking Death Wish, and I love Death Wish, but we got to promote these guys too. Check out Cameron's Coffee. That's what we're just gonna start promoting a lot of coffee on this show. Cameron's Coffee, smooth coffee, organic. It's organic. Come on. Velvet Moon Espresso Roast. We actually picked this up at Costco, believe it or not. And it's great stuff. They're a great company. Check them out. I love Cameron, so I send a salute out to them. Still love my Death Wish, don't get me wrong, but Cameron's is great coffee, and that's what I'm drinking today. So grab a cup and join us. And all right, I think I'm going to bring my buddy Randy on, and we're going to talk about all this stuff as well. Fellow guitar player. As this gets going, you guys, and we start doing these live sessions more, it'll be a bit more organized, a bit more on topic, and things we specifically talk about, if you will. But just want to come on today. It's the very first one. Say hi, get to know a lot of you guys that I've never talked to like this in a chat room and stuff, and get going. And we're going to have guests on more and more as we do more of these live, and it keeps on growing. But I wanted to get one on today just to get things started, to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Randy's a great guy, great friend, great guitar player. We do bi-weekly, first and third Tuesday of each month, open mic nights at Tommy T's in Orland Park, Illinois. So if you're ever out this way, come on up. We're there from 7 to 9. We'll be there this coming Tuesday. So, and Randy's one of the main guys. Is always there, always gets out and joins us. And so I'm going to bring Randy on. So give him a round of applause. All right, Randy, are you there? Yes, you are. I feel like I'm Mr. Rogers bringing in no, that was Captain Kangaroo that brought in Mr. Green Jeans. we were just talking about this the other day, but what's up, Randy? Give Randy a round of applause. If I had a soundtrack of applause, which I'll hopefully get in the future, I'd turn it on. But what's up, Randy? Thanks for checking in.
No, congratulations on the 500 subscribers, and thank you, obviously, for having me on today. And that was a great introduction. I've never been introduced like that, but interesting. But yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for everybody who's out there in the chats. And willing to talk whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, I noticed we got some cool, like you said, Simon made a good point. You don't think of Hank Williams and BB King as contemporaries. You don't, but I love them. But that was the first music I ever heard in my life. I know, Randy, first stuff you ever heard was country.
It was.
Am I correct? Yeah. My grandfather played it, and my uncle all the time. So like at Thanksgiving and stuff, when we get together, that's what we were doing. You would sit in the living room and they get out the game. I just thought that was like the coolest. I didn't want to go to bed, and they'd be going on till like 2 a.m, and my mom would be like, "You have to go to bed." I'd be like, "I don't want to go to bed," and I still go to bed. Nothing's changed, but
it was great stuff to learn because it was like a easy 1-4-5 progression, and when you're first learning to play guitar, it was so easy. I really gravitated toward that, and my uncles would just write down the chord structure, and off I went. I thought I was a rock star, and that was the first stuff I ever grew up on. And and then the older you get, when you're in high school, they're like, who are you talking about? You know, you're
Well,
not
yeah,
talking about
right.
Metallica and, you know,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Once
Iron
you're
Maiden.
exactly
Right.
right. When I got into rock and stuff and Van
Sure.
Halen and that, you would
Yeah.
play some of that for your friends, and they'd be like, "What the? Like you just took us to outer space."
Wow.
But the
I
thing
know.
about Hank and somebody else I saw was online talking about this earlier, and it's so true. Like the stuff he was singing about, it's like it appealed to people in 1951 and it appeals to people in 2023,
Correct.
like being lonesome. Uh, that never changes no matter what
Right.
smartphone you have or no matter
Sure.
how advanced we get as a human race or
Yeah.
unadvanced, however you want to look at it.
Sure.
It's always comes back to what's in here and stuff, and that's what Hank saying about I know it's different. A lot of people hear it at first and his voice and stuff, and they're like, what like is this? But if you give it a chance and really listen to it, it's amazing. I think I might have read, don't quote me on this, but that Hank Williams is the most covered artist. Like, in other words, like other people who've remade his
Okay.
songs, like
Sure.
across the board, he holds the record for like
Wow.
every genre has done. Move it on over, George
Oh,
Thorogood. That's
sure.
actually a
Absolutely.
Hank Williams song, but a lot
Right.
of people to this day don't know that. But it's I love Hank. That's
Yeah.
just such awesome stuff. And
Yeah.
if you're not hip to it, you should definitely check Hank out, especially on his 100th birthday. Um,
Yeah, that's something that I mean, you always know everybody's birthdays, which is really cool, and to remember that. I mean, that's phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and then like we're saying, BB King, who I know for a fact loved Hank Williams as well. He loved a lot of country, Jimmy Rogers, BB King. I believe it's in the Smithsonian. In fact, I know it is now that he donated his vinyl collection years
Wow.
back. As BB King had like thousands of vinyl records, and he actually donated it to the Smithsonian while he was still alive, but he
Wow. Is that
listened
awesome?
to everything. I happen to know for a fact, and nobody believes me when I say this, that BB King had a Black Sabbath record in his collection. Yeah, people are like, what? Yeah, I mean, he was across. He loved everything. It was people were amazed by that. But
Wow.
BB King liked, and I know he loved that old country stuff because that was some of the first stuff
Wow.
he ever heard. Um,
That's
but
something to know. I mean, because I'm just, like you've seen my look on my face. I mean, yeah, that is incredible that he was all into that stuff. I mean, that is
yeah, and I mean it's kind of weird because if you think about it, like we lost Hank in 53, New Year's Day of
okay.
53, but like BB 48, 49 was when he first came out. So in a way, they were like
Passing the torch.
contemporaries,
Right.
they were around at the same time but you just don't really think of it that way because BB
No.
lived so much longer and it was a whole
Right.
different style of music, I guess, but not really. I mean, I like you said, it's a three chord structure that a lot of Hank Williams songs were, and blues is a three chord structure. It's
Correct.
so similar, yet like it's amazing to me how many people won't listen to the two like that. I don't know. It's interesting, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I never knew that they passed the torch quite like that, you know what I mean? Like, you link them both together, and I would have never thought
Simon, I
that.
thought you said his Bible collection. You maybe that too, but no, his vinyl collection. That's funny. But yeah, he had an awesome vinyl. It was crazy how much vinyl he had, like just to the like point where, like I said, the Smithsonian wanted it because not only
Wow.
was it a huge collection, it was valuable. He had a lot of old
Oh,
stuff
sure.
from when he was a kid, even getting stud. So yeah, it's crazy. Um,
Wow. Would you guys sit and talk about that stuff, like, when we hung out with BB a lot? I mean, is that how you knew?
yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, a lot of stuff, that kind of stuff we would talk about, and like with like Sid Seidenberg, who a lot of
Sure.
people don't know that name, but that was BB's manager,
Right.
and he was always the guy that would he was always there, so he'd sit down and get like BB talking and stuff, and
Wow.
yeah, he would always there was a lot of interviews and stuff that a lot of times, like if I was back there, they'd be like, yeah, you can go ahead and have a seat and sit. And it was pretty cool to sit there watching them. I've told this story before. One of my favorite ones of BB is sitting there with him while a guy was interviewing him, and the guy was doing the whole, Elvis came up. And BB was great friends with Elvis. He loved him. He thought he was great. And
That's just awesome.
his name came up, and the interviewer kept saying, yeah, but don't you think he stole the music from the original blues guys like yourself? Didn't Elvis really just steal? And BB just shades like, nope, I think he didn't steal anything. He deserved everything he got. He was a super talented guy and a great friend. Yeah, but don't you think? And this guy just kept trying to get in any way he could to get BB to say, yeah, you're right. And he just would not do it. He just kept shaking his head. And it kind of was getting to the point where he was looking at the guy like, all right, I'm about ready to stand up and walk out this interview, because the guy just wouldn't let up on it. But he finally did. But no, BB he thought Elvis was great. And
that's phenomenal.
Robert,
I've seen that. I've seen that comment.
Backwards, you get your wife back, your house back, you get sober, and your dog comes back. I love it. But I'm not really a big fan of newer country. I know a lot of people might not agree with me on that, but I think Chris Stapleton is great. And there's a couple guys that are, but a little bit. It's funny because when Connie and I were playing last night, we were setting up, and they had I think it was like satellite radio station on, and it was a newer country, and every single song that came out was something about drinking. It was just like, this is why I drink. I think that was the name of the song. This is why I drink. And then I would grab a beer. And don't get me wrong, that's all great. And it's like, hey, nothing wrong with drinking songs, but it's like, wow, like everyone, like really, we can't just branch out. It's kind of so. I mean, like back to Hank Williams. I mean, he didn't really, if you look at his songs, like none of them were about drinking. Obviously, Hank drank. I'm not saying he didn't, but I mean, like his songs were not about that. It's kind of like, wow, so really? You sat down and wrote a drinking song? Wow, that was real. I mean, it's like, come on. So, and a lot of it's just so, I guess, poppy and commercial is what I'm trying to say. I just can't get, but it's like anything, there's always good that comes through. And like I said, I think Chris Stapleton's doing a pretty awesome job for newer country. I get it. You have to kind of walk the line of, being contemporary, which he is, but some of the stuff he does is really good.
Now you got me thinking. So every time I go to listen to a country song, I got to realize, because I never, like you, I guess you're right. They ran out of ideas, Can't talk about the horses and all this other stuff. We just talk about beer.
Well, it's like, I don't know. Or what's the one song I know is like the Country Girl Shaking for Me. It's like, okay, so we got Country Girls Shaking and we got beer. It's like, that's all. It's like, really? Can we like just branch out a little? Okay, this is all about music, person. Gotta disagree. What about my bucket's got a hole in it? I don't think that was about drinking.
Wow.
Okay, so, but I don't know if I would have to look that up, and I should know this. I don't believe Hank wrote that song. I think that goes back. That's like an old gut bucket blues. I don't know who wrote that. I don't even know if they really God, that might even be like public domain. But Hank is the guy that kind of put his spin on it, if you will. But
sure.
Hey, in Hank's defense, in the one song, he's I know a spot right over the hill. There's soda pop and the dancing's free. So see, he was drinking soda pop.
There you go. In his defense.
But on the subject of Hank, if you guys want to check out some great books and know more about him, this one I would highly recommend. Hank Williams, the biography. Colin Escott, who, if any of you know, Colin's just he's written several books, and he's just awesome. Everything. If you see Colin Escott's name on anything, grab it, because he's just an awesome author. And to me, this is the definitive book on Hank Williams. It goes through everything, and really gives a good picture of who he was and his whole life. But the other one I would say that's, a runner up would be this one. Guy named Mark Rabowski did this a few years back, and that's a great one too.
Wow.
I've got a ton of them. There's some of them that I've read like 200 Hank Williams biographies.
Wow.
Some of them get, like anything, they get off into the, like what we're talking about. Hank was drunk and he went in and trashed the room, and I get it. That's what sells books, and that's what but it's like,
Sure.
Oh, here we go. Bucket's got a hole in it, originated in Germany in the 1700s. Simon, thank you for checking this out. It describes a deadlock situation where the character Henry faces problem after problem, all due to a hole in his bucket. There you go. So 1700s, that's what I mean. I knew it was like an old, that's one of those ones that have been kind of like Sweet Home Chicago. Nobody, I mean, Robert Johnson, I would say, kind of wrote that. But even when they look into that, there was bluesmen traveling around playing Sweet Home Chicago, and like every time they'd get to the chorus of the song, I'm going back to my sweet home Chicago, and it was kind of like, okay, who actually wrote this song? But then you are the rock professor, Simon. Yes, without a doubt. But thanks for letting us know about that. But Sweet Home, but then Robert Johnson, I think, kind of made the version that, if you want to talk about the way we know it today, I would say,
that's something, because like you said, it's like every time I hear a song or whatever like that, it's like you have to almost go back and see who originally wrote the song, because it's like when you first heard it, you're like, oh, that's the guy, but then it really isn't. It's somebody else wrote it, this guy, and it goes on, and then you open up this whole book of other artists, and then you're like, oh, hey, look at how this guy performed it or did it, and like you said, the Robert Johnson version is awesome, and it's like I never knew, and all of a sudden I'm checking out Robert Johnson, and I'm like, wow, here's Sweet Home Chicago, like, it all kind of links together. So every time I hear a song, I'm like, did he really write that, or did somebody, and you kind of have to do a little history and try to find out who originally did the song and stuff. So.
Well, yeah, and I always loved that. Like, obviously, the Stones covered like Love and Pain and stuff like that, and obviously, Cream did Crossroads. But as a kid, when I first started getting into that music, I'd be like, wait, who's Robert? Who? And I'd like find out who's this guy. And we were talking about this earlier, Randy and I, before we came on, even with Fleetwood Mac. Going back to the November 12th gig in the book. Randy, you've got the CDs there. I think I can see them behind you.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Photographs by the great Jeff Lowenthal. But those are replicas pretty much of how the vinyl looked. But back in the 80s, whenever, that's you couldn't find it nowhere. It was nowhere around. So I would always look, like we're saying, I'd look up somebody's name and I'd hit the used record stores, like who's Robert Johnson and with Fleetwood Mac, the only thing that was available was the Stevie Nicks stuff. And all that.
Rumors. It was all, that's all I knew growing up was rumors. And then everybody was talking about Fleetwood Mac. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and then all of a sudden it was like, holy, like, wow, there was all this,
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's crazy because then there's even that era with Danny Kerwin and like Bob Welch and all that stuff that kind of was before the Stevie. It was like there's yes, I said Randy's definitely got the book and loves it.
And I'm bringing it to Reggie, so
but but I remember we were talking about this before it went on. I found a vinyl which I had Jeff sign the last time I was with him of that.
Yeah.
And it was $1 in a cut. And I was telling Randy, the guy at the counter at the time, was like, oh, wow, we're finally getting rid of this. Yay. I was about ready to just give some of these away because they've been sitting. And I was like, really? Like, but that's how you had to find the Peter Green stuff, because it wasn't, I found Maury Muehlheisen, who is the guitar player that played with Jim Croce. If you look up the videos on YouTube of Jim, you'll always see him with this long-haired guy playing, and that lead stuff you always hear. That was Maury playing through that, and he put out an awesome album called Gingerbread, and it sold like 10 copies, and they were done with it, and it went in the cutout bin and never to be heard from again. And I got wind of that as a kid when that was like I would drive like 300 miles to go to these record conventions, and I finally found a copy of Gingerbread for $1, same thing.
Wow.
And I'm just like, what? And it's so weird how some of those albums just got like they were almost junk or whatever. And then here's me, and I know there's other people like me because most of you are on here. And that's so cool. I love everybody that is on here, and it's cool we can all relate to or other channels like Simon and Andrew with the 5150 show. They talk about all that stuff too.
Great stuff.
And it's just great to know other people that, before the internet, it was like, am I the only like idiot driving around 300 miles looking for this stuff? And it's like, wow, there's actually a group of us.
You're getting pulled over by the cops, and you're like, no, really, I'm going to get an album.
Like, I know. It was like, and then you tell like people, they're like, well, so what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I drove out to, Maryland. Really? What'd you go out there for? Oh, there was a record convention. Wait, what? Yeah, there was a record. I was looking for this Gingerbread album I got for $1. Like, oh, wow. Okay, like, wait, what? Like, what did you do with your weekend? So it's a different mentality, I know. But if
the rest of us are everybody out here songs about drinking, right? You're out driving around looking at albums. We're writing country songs talking about drinking and stuff.
Right. So I know I'm jumping around here, you guys. Like I said, this will be a little more structured, hopefully, in the future. Or today we're just kind of chime in if there's something else you guys want to talk about. But on the fact that it's Hank Williams' 100th birthday, Colin Escott, who did this book we were talking about earlier, also did this book with Kira Florida, and that came out years ago. And what it is, it's not really so much, obviously it's a book, but snapshots from the Lost Highway. And it's very similar to Jeff and Bob's book, where it's more
fantastic.
I don't know how to hold this up and turn the pages here, but there's like, photographs in here. And then they kind of just talk about the old photos, and there's like lyrics. It kind of reminds me of Bob and Jeff's book in a way. It's a lot of photos as opposed to like a biography or something. But then he did a biography of Hank too. So just look up Colin Escott for books, or if you're trying to find it. And it's just great stuff. Anything if you want to get into Hank more. But Hank was always, and I think Johnny Cash was different too. I remember Steve Earle talking about this when I spent some time with him, and he said, obviously Steve Earle's known as a country guy today, but he was talking about like when he was a kid and he first started getting into, he was like a rock guy, like a lot of us were. And he said, first country came on and he was like, oh wow, this is kind of, and he said like, but Cash was different when he heard like the Live at Folsom Prison or Live at San Quentin albums. First of all, he was swearing on there. So I think, I know for me, I was like, ooh, wait, he's swearing on there. This is, wow, wait, what? I want this album. So, as a kid, that's like, ooh, a big, but he just was, there was like a edgier thing about him. And I think Hank was that same way.
And there was nothing on the album that said that they were swearing on it. You know what I mean? Like what do they call that?
Oh, right, like the PMRC came out
like,
with the yeah, that was years before that. That was in the good old days.
Right.
But it yeah, I mean, it was you know, and then it became like anything does, I think, like a marketing thing, outlaw country, and it's like, oh, here we go. And even to this day, there's people outlaw country, and then you look into the guy and he like grew up in the like suburbs of Washington or something and went to a private school, parents had millions of dollars, and he's out singing outlaw country. It's like, all right, yeah, but I mean, it's, I don't know, but Cash and obviously Hank were just so real, you know, it was just a different kind of a thing. And
did you see the movies of Johnny Cash? What did you think? Was it pretty portrayed correctly? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I thought both of them, can't think of the guy's name right now. Phoenix.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Phoenix is his name. That's all I can remember.
Somebody will say something on the comments, I hope. But yeah.
Jaku Phoenix or something, or maybe I'm thinking of Jacques Cousteau. Maybe
Reese Witherspoon.
I'm back in and then Reese Witherspoon. I thought she was better than him for doing June Carter. She was, so no, I loved that movie. I thought it was River Phoenix. Oh, Joaquin Phoenix. Wasn't there a Joaquin Phoenix? Am I wrong about this? Or am I just making this up in my mind? River Phoenix. Simon.
We'll go on that for your next show. We'll go through all the actors and get them correct.
I'm just gonna let Simon run the show. Yeah, I'm getting off. But I'm
fantastic.
But no, pronounced Joaquin. Really? Joaquin Phoenix. Who is this All About Music person? I believe that might be Connie, but I don't know. Either that or somebody hacked the account. But but yes, I'm way off topic. Yes, I think she did a great job. I thought, and I thought that movie was good. The only thing I always say about that is that, like, because Cash put out a book, which I have, but I don't have it right here in front of me. The Man in Black, obviously it was called, and it was like his biography. It came out in the 70s, but he also put one out called The Man in White, and it was about, I mean, he had like a totally religious side to him too. And I guess that's a problem I always have with those movies. But nobody wants to focus on a guy praying every day and going to church, and they'd sell 2 tickets. I get that. So they, you know, him trashing the truck and driving it into the lake and drinking, and okay, now we got a line going out the door because everybody wants to see that. And so it's always they always portray that side only of those guys, which because I know Hank too was very religious. Although there's a joke about that. I Saw the Light, which is the religious song, but supposedly there's always been a story that they talk about in some of the books and stuff that like he was like passed out almost in the back seat. It was actually his mom and somebody else were driving him home that night, and she would always say, I just saw the light, because it was like a street light, and that meant they were getting close to their house. So she was like, Hank, I just saw the light, we're almost home. And he just started saying like, I saw the light, and singing, and then he turned it. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I was not there, obviously, but I've heard that story from several people. But whatever, regardless, that planted that seed in his brain to write that song, and he did turn it into a religious song. So Hank was real into all that stuff too, and had that whole other side. It was like they always had the two sides fighting with each other, and that's kind of what made them, I think, in a way, you know. But nowadays it's all just, you know, country girl, shake it for me, let's pop a beer and woo, and it's like that's great, but I think we've maybe reached the limit on the songs we had. I don't know if we need another one of those songs or not, but maybe, I don't know, just my opinion. So you speaking of Johnny Cash, do you have your Johnny Cash guitar there, Randy?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So I did a review on this guitar. Just check out in the guitar review, that very guitar. And
Yeah.
that's just an awesome we usually bring this to the open mic nights, right?
Correct. It's got just a great sound to it, you know. And then when you plug it in, it's like, oh wow, it's incredible. The pickups in it and everything are just phenomenal on this thing. It's and it's like when you know how it is with guitars. It's like you strum one chord on a guitar and you instantly know, And I remember when I got this guitar, I strummed the chord and I'm like, whoa, like this is it. This is such a great, well built, great bang for the buck. Like you reviewed it and everything you said, and I bring it to open mic and you could bang it around, and it's my go-to acoustic guitar right now. It's fantastic.
Well, we were talking about that in the review too. Like
Correct.
I know they make a Johnny Cash D35
Oh,
that's
yeah.
almost
Yeah.
$6,000, I believe, and that one I think is like 600.
Correct.
Or so,
Correct.
basically take one of the zeros off.
Yeah, right. But like you said, it's all about the tone, really. I mean, and if you want to bring something like like you said before, if you're going to bring a $6,000 guitar to an open mic, that's more power to you. But this will do the job just as great, and the tone on it is phenomenal. And everybody comments us, as when we're at open mic, everybody comments about that guitar.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, whenever Randy brings that guitar out, everybody wait, what is that guitar?
Nothing about my playing. They're just like, what about that guitar? I'm like, whatever, all right, whatever. Well, here, take the guitar. I'm like, yeah.
Wait, but there you go. I think that to get into guitars here for a little bit, we all kind of get into the what they call headstock envy as guitar players, and it's just like you need that is a Martin, obviously, but I mean, people always want the higher end stuff, and it's like a lot of times it's not. It's you're just paying for that name and the fancier stuff on there. Not that I'm saying the Johnny Cash D35 isn't a beautiful guitar, because it is, but it's amazing the stuff they're making now like that, because Martin never used to. It was all made in the Nazareth, Pennsylvania plant. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted a Martin and going to look at them, and I'm like, what about that one right there? That just looks like a basic that one, I could give you that one right now for $1,100. That here's me with like pulling change out of my pocket. No,
not a lot of places wouldn't let you touch them guitars. You know what I mean? Like they would be like, they knew, they're like, you can't afford that guitar. Come over here and look at this one, or whatever. And I was always like, but I really like that. But they're like, you can't afford it. And I'm like, can I still play it? You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's so it's weird. But that's a beautiful guitar. Check out my review of that we did a little while back. So what was this? That was the first music you ever heard, Randy. Like, what were some of the first songs you remember learning how to play as we take a coffee break?
Yeah, no, it's exactly what you were talking about. My uncles had a country band, and I remember the first time my uncle opened up a guitar case, it was like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, what is that? And I was just so intrigued by it. And when they had their band or whatever, they would record the jobs on a cassette, and my dad would bring them home to me, and that's how I learned how to play guitar. My uncles, like I told you, would tell me the chord structure, and I would sit there with that cassette and rewind it and play it. And my parents would knock on the door, go, if we hear that song one more time, but that's how you learned, you just sat there and learned. And I would learn the a lot of the solos, or, a lot of the stuff was just a major, a pentatonic kind of a scale kind of thing. And I really gravitated toward that, because I was like, man, I'm learning how to play guitar. Because one of my first guitar teachers, I told you, it was like, I didn't want to learn Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And, I didn't want to learn that stuff. So I was like, I wanted to play. And my parents went out and I think they got me a PVT 15 guitar, my first electric guitar. And that was it. I was like hooked, because, like trying to play an acoustic when you're first starting out what you should do, but it's hard. You know, it's hard to fret the stuff. And then when I got that electric guitar and I had some crazy amp or whatever plugged into it, I was gone. And I would just listen to those cassettes. And, you know, and like you said, it wasn't popular back in the day when I was, you know, in school or whatever. My friends were like, "Oh, you play guitar? Can you play Van Halen or whatever like that?" I'm like, "No, but I know this real cool Johnny Cash song," you know, and they're like, "Who's," you know, and it wasn't popular, but I enjoyed it. And I was able to join the band like later on when I got probably 14, 15 years old. I joined the band before it officially like broke up, and because I knew all their songs, I just because I had it all there for years, and that's kind of how I did it. And you know, the day that band broke up, I was in tears because now I'm like, oh no, now I got to go learn heavy metal, and I can't play heavy metal. But yeah, so that's kind of where I started. I have to, you know, and I'm grateful for it. I really am.
Oh, so you have a question, Randy. What is your favorite Cash or Hank song? I like I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive. True words were never spoken. That is a great song.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Hank wrote this stuff. If you listen to his, Jim Croce is like that to me too.
Okay.
If you listen to his stuff, it's like the lyrical content.
Sure.
It's like he's either writing some completely humorous about like a roller derby queen that's just, or like, you know,
oh, that's such a great
song or something, and he just could get real serious too. And Hank was like, to me, that's the sign or the test, if you will, of a true classic song. It has no age limit. It doesn't matter what smartphone we have or if we're flying to outer space or whatever. You put that song on any year and everyone can relate to it. It doesn't date itself.
Totally agree.
You know, obviously, like when the disco stuff came out, and they were just talking about that. Then that the minute that stuff died, it died with it, you know. And I think a lot of pop music, that's the kiss of death, if you will, because they're singing about. So I guess if you make a lot of money at the time and you're happy with that, that's it. But then once it's done, it's done. It has no the shelf.
And to answer that question, I would have to say probably Folsom Prison Blues was probably one of the you know, most played song that I heard, and I think that was probably one of the one of the first solos that I probably learned on guitar. You know, because it was such a simple kind of thing, and it was so recognizable. You know, and anytime I played that, you know, with my uncle's band or whatever like that, they're like, you know, the riff. I'm like, I think you know, and they're like, wow, that's, you know, you got it. And I'm like, yeah, that, you know, it's pretty simple, but very, it goes with the song. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. No, that song is just, even that, the content in that, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. It's like, that's edgy by today's standards, but imagine in the 50s.
Sure.
It must feel like, wait, what did he just say?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, you know, no, Cash is, I love all of that stuff. Well,
you said too, like it was BB's birthday.
And yes, I had like, yesterday. Yep, yesterday.
Yesterday was, and I like you introduced me like to a lot of the BB King stuff, but like a lot of that live stuff. Do you see this? That this was a great.
Oh,
and I really like the live stuff. You know what I mean? Because it's just pure and it's live. You know what I mean? Like it's like an open mic. Yeah, it's just. But this, but to BB King, you know, it was his birthday yesterday. You said, and 100. You said how old is he now? He would have been.
Well, he would have been 98, and Hank would have been 100 today. Wow. So it's like it's weird to think those guys were only 2 years apart. 1923 and 1925 was when BB was born. 2 years later, but it's like in your mind, like Simon was saying earlier, you don't think of them as not only contemporaries, but in my mind, I think like Hank Williams was way older than BB King because you're just thinking but he wasn't. It's just that we lost him so young. I mean, he wasn't even 30 yet. So, you know, and then BB obviously lived a lot longer, thank God. But they always talk about that, like what Hank would have done had he lived. And obviously, I'm not saying it's good that he died, but a lot of people have said that if there's one good thing about it. It's that he's kind of frozen in time. You don't really,
Okay.
you didn't have to see him like get old and age out, and his voice isn't what it used to be, and he's getting too old to play anymore. And he just, when you just think of Hank Williams, there he is in the in his element, and you don't think about him as
Sure.
a old guy or anything because that never
Sure.
happened. So I
Yeah.
guess, but what an impact on, I mean, Elvis loved Hank Williams and all those early rock and rockabilly guys, and we saw what that spawned off
Mhm.
onto. So it's safe to say without Hank that there wouldn't have been rock and roll as we know it, in my
Sure.
opinion. Because he just took the. I mean, even today, the guys we're talking about that sing about drinking all the time and stuff, that's kind of the template, you know, the hat and the whole. I mean,
Sure.
that was Hank Williams is the guy that kind of started that whole thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what you think about where it's went to that
Well,
nowadays, but I guess we'll never know.
it's funny you say that. Like after my uncle's bands like kind of broke up and stuff like that, and I, periodically would try to start a band, and I'm like, they're like, "What kind of music you want to play?" I'm like, hey, good looking, you know what I mean? And they're like, they'd be like, "Who's that?" And I'd be like, "What about this?" And they're like, "Oh my god, like that's," they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, that's what I like," I mean, but nobody, it wasn't popular,
But I
and there
think
was
that's
no way
great that you did that because I was the same way, and to me, that's the like a the foundation because we all knew guys. I still do that, like would can do like an Eddie Van Halen solo, and they're flying up and down the neck, and then like you said, people are thinking like, what can I do to top that guy? And that's
Yeah.
how you do it. You say, let's play Hey Good Looking, and he's like, wait, what? He doesn't know what to, and it's like, really? He's stumped by a 3-chord
Yeah,
song because there's so many
right.
guys that can't even do that stuff and
Sure.
play good rhythm guitar because they're so
Oh,
worried about,
absolutely.
and it's like that you gotta have that foundation. That's gotta
Exactly.
be there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So, needless to say, that didn't take off too well.
well, it's great that you held up the BB King. And so, what do you have like live? What about live at the Regal or
I
anything?
don't. I never grabbed that one. I got this one, but yeah, no, I didn't. I never grabbed that one.
I love that one live at Cook County Jail. There's a part on there where you can hear. I think it's like the second song where he's soloing. He's actually using like feedback. Like you can
Okay.
hear him
Yeah.
hit this note and it just distorts and rings. And BB, I heard him talking about that. I remember he was talking to a guitar magazine once, and I was sitting there and he was saying, yeah, if you turn a certain way, you can grab the note and get it to sustain. And I'm thinking, BB King's talking about feedback. Like, this is like people don't think of him that way, though. They think, like, um, not like Jimi Hendrix or whatever, but obviously he, man, as far as guitar playing goes,
Oh yeah.
who of us doesn't owe him anything? Simon
Absolutely.
Elvis would have been 85. Wow, that's crazy.
Wow. That's something too.
So it's
There's
weird
another
to
movie.
think
There's
about
another
that
movie.
he could have still been around, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's um get the while we're on the BB subject though, I want, as
Sure.
far as a book for him, I would say get this one, Blues All
Okay.
Around Me, with BB with David Ritz. That was like his official biography. I've got a ton. I've posted pictures of him before of things that BB signed to me and stuff. This was actually one that was out of a pile, and he signed it right there on the front. And Sid Seidenberg, his manager, had like a pile of these. And when they first came out, BB
Wow.
signed a ton of them. And I was there when they had like this box of them. And I remember like Sid going through them. And I was standing there and he was just like, he just handed me one. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, wow, he signed. So like, it's not personalized or anything, but
Sure.
yeah, but that's just a great book. Blues.
Wow.
I'm so bad with getting this stuff in the camera. Blues All Around Me, David Ritz. I know
Wow.
you can still find that out there too, but
Okay.
that pretty much sums up BB's. It's just God, the stories in there are just unbelievable. The stuff that guy
You find
saw.
them a lot of them correct, like a lot of the stories. I mean, you kind of
Yeah, and I mean, he
of
did work with him. Like his name is on there with, BB King with David Ritz. So this was all like
okay,
authorized, and
okay,
David Ritz spent time on the
sure,
road with BB, not like in his band or anything, but I mean like following him around while he was writing it and stuff. And
okay, yeah, because sometimes
Simon
the
and
book.
Bob talk about The Thrill Is Gone, and Bob live at the Regal
Oh
is
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah,
There's another Blues is King, it's called,
okay,
that was recorded, I believe, a little bit before live
okay,
at the Regal, and that's got like Gambler's Blues on there. I
okay.
think it's the second song, and you can hear it's in this little club, and you can hear all these women just like
Oh,
woo, like
oh,
screaming.
that's
And
cool.
check out my interview with Don Felder from the Eagles. If you go
Oh
through
yeah,
you can hear the audio interview of him talking about that he went to see BB King when he in the 60s when he was a kid, and he was playing
wow,
out in some, he describes it on there like they had a bale of hay as the seat for the backstage area, and BB was like playing in like some barn that they turned into like a makeshift club, and then BB was sitting down on this bale of hay backstage in between sets, and Don Felder and his friend like snuck in there and were like
wow,
talking to him and stuff, and
that's
and he
incredible.
tells that whole story. You
That's
can
a
hear.
great story.
So
Wow.
yeah, so check out. Just scroll through my YouTube videos here. I think I've got them in sections now. The ones that say
Okay.
artist interviews. Dion just went up today,
Hmm.
and then you could the Don Felder one is up there. Dion, I want to talk about him a little bit
Sure.
too. Um, Man, you talk about the last of the. I mean, who else is around that was at ground zero when rock and roll was born? I mean, there's not many guys.
Right.
Dion, not only is he still around, his best stuff he's putting out has been recently. Joe Bonamassa put out the last two albums from Dion.
Incredible.
He like produced them, put them out on his label and stuff. And thank God he did, because that guy, if anybody needs, but the music sounds so fresh, and just, I mean, it's like, what, this guy is, you like listen to it, and it's just but a few years back he did, right around the time we did the interview, which came out in print a couple years back, but this is actually the audio of it. He had put out an album called New York Is My Home, and
Okay.
he had Paul Simon doing a duet with him on that. And
Wow.
I'll try to put the link to that. If you
Yeah.
can pull it up on YouTube, there's a cool video
Okay.
of it, and it's just a beautiful song. And like him and Paul are like walking around the streets of New York, and
Wow. That's
just
really
singing.
cool.
And he said it was real therapeutic. He's a huge city guy. He talks about that in the interview too, how like people write about the skies of Montana and stuff, and he's like,
Mhm.
give me the subway, give me the streets, he's the king of the New York streets. And he's a city guy, and of course when
Sure.
9/11 happened to his hometown, it
Mm.
just devastated him,
Sure.
as it did all of us. And that's
Sure.
kind of what New York Is My Home was dedicated
Mhm.
to. So we talk about that a little bit, and it was a pretty emotional conversation. So it's not the entire conversation, because I didn't want to put the whole thing out there, but it's just cool to hear him talking about like his love for the city, and
Wow.
that. So check that song out. New York Is My Home, Dion with
Mhm.
Paul Simon. There's a video. Just search on YouTube. It'll be the first thing that comes up. But Dion's such an awesome guy, and it was just what an honor to talk to him, because
Yeah.
as far as I know, that whole, I mean, to somebody that came out at ground zero when rock and roll was born, it's like, is there somebody I'm not thinking of? I don't think there's anybody. There's not too, if there is, they're not very active anymore. They're maybe standing on the sidelines, but Dion
Sure.
is still
Still
putting out,
working, huh? That's awesome.
man. And I mean, his voice, it's like, what are you taking? Like, how do you do
Mhm.
that? It's so inspiring too to
Mhm.
see that, because
How
like,
many of his songs do you play live? I know you guys play The Wanderer and You play any
Run
other ones?
Around Sue.
Run Around Sue. Okay.
We've done
Yeah.
others in the past. I might start doing New York Is My Home.
Oh,
I
okay.
just love that song.
Sure.
A lot of times, as you know, when you're playing at some of these you gotta, you play
your
The
club.
Wanderer, people know it. They let you play New York Is My Home. They're going to the bathroom because they don't know what, people want to hear stuff they know, and I get that, but so it's always like you gotta walk that fine line.
Yeah. But you want to remember them songs too, you know what I mean? It's great that you play that stuff because it's like, you know what I mean? Like people really should hear it, and you might, like you said, I mean, it might not be popular, but maybe you'll get one person that'll look it up and be like, oh, hey, there's this whole library of stuff, that you should be listening to, or, you might like, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Dion's got when it's crazy, you can hear him talk about he went shopping with John Lennon for suede jackets because he's on the front of the Sgt. Pepper's album.
Oh, wow.
So when I was going to interview him, I always try to not do the generic,
Sure.
Dion, The Wanderer, we all love that song. Let's talk about it. It's like, really? Does he have to, just like when I talked with Don Felder, in fact, I told him that it's not in the interview, but before we went on, we were like waiting, or just talking before we formally started. And I said, Don, if it's okay with you, I don't even want to talk about the Eagles. I want to talk about your early life, your solo albums and how you started. And he was like, that would be refreshing to no end. He's like, I cannot even tell you how happy I am to hear that. And because it's like that stuff's out there. If you want to read about that or see it, just do a search. It's been asked a million. So I always try to come up with something that maybe, they haven't talked about a million times. And I was thinking, Dion was on the front of Sgt. Pepper's. Like, how does that, like, if they put my face on that album, it's like, how did that feel the first time you? So I asked him that. I was like, okay, I don't think you've ever been asked this, but the first time you were on Sgt. Pepper's, what was your thought? And but yeah, he talks about how obviously he knew all those guys and he knew John, and they went shopping for suede jackets, and the front of the Rubber Soul album, John Lennon is wearing that jacket. Wow. And Dion said he still has his. It's hanging up in the closet. He said it's kind of stiff, but I'm like, this is crazy. Like talking about the John Lennon for jackets. But they loved Dion and the Beatles because he hit before they did. And so they cut his face out of the Ruby Baby album cover and tape, and that's like what you see on the Sgt. Pepper's. So I mean, it's cool because in the interview I put the cover up and his picture, so you can actually see exactly what I'm talking about. You don't have to go looking for the pictures. Grab your coffee. We're not publicizing coffee enough on this show today. Coffee, Cameron's Coffee. Drink up. Check them out. And Death Wish, but and Baby Yoda, but anyway, grab a cup of coffee and pull that video up, and you can just sit back. I tried to put clips up of what we're talking about at the time, so you don't have to be like, "Ooh, the Rubber Soul album." I'm gonna look for that one. I put it up for you so you can see it right there while you're listening to it.
And I appreciate a lot of your interviews are like that. Like a lot of times you kind of don't go into the normal questions with a lot of these, a lot of these guys and stuff like that. You kind of do ask the fresher questions that the people don't never heard before. And like you said, a lot of the, everybody wants to talk about the Eagles or whatever like that, but to talk about something else and, maybe know a little bit more about their life and how they started. And that stuff to me is very interesting, because you always want to know, how did you get to this point, or, or your influences or whatever. So,
well, yeah. And even when I got to interview Peter Frampton, which was awesome.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
I knew the one thing that was off topic was Frampton Comes Alive.
Oh, sure.
It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like
Yeah.
all anybody has talked about.
Yeah.
Not that
Yeah.
it's
Of
off
course.
topic. I shouldn't
No.
say that. I
No.
mean, if he wants to talk about it, I definitely will.
Sure.
But I mean, I was asking him about Humble Pie in his early
Mhm.
years, and he that's another guy. He's put out blues
Oh,
albums in the recent years that are phenomenal. So
yeah.
everybody likes to talk about their newer stuff. I mean, he just put a new album out. He's excited about it, and now he's talking
Yeah.
about Frampton Comes Alive. It's like, really, like, I want to talk about my new stuff. So it's
Sure.
like, we already know about all that stuff. We love all
Yeah.
that stuff. So it's like,
Sure.
talk about the newer stuff. So
Absolutely.
no, Frampton was great. As a matter of fact, that I told Connie I was ecstatic about that, because the day after I interviewed Peter Frampton, his management called me back, and I saw their number come up, and I was like, oh, wow. And I was actually running into, I think we were playing in like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, if this is Peter Frampton, we might have to hold on. Might have to be like, the show's going to happen in 20 minutes. Hold on, guys. So I answered the phone, and they're like, we just wanted to let you know, Peter said that was his favorite interview he's done this year. He just was, and I was like, wow. And then I'm thinking,
Wow.
I hope they don't just call everybody up and say that. Wow, that was your favorite. But I don't think they do, because I've never gotten a call back like that of everybody I've interviewed.
That's wow.
And so
That's
that really
awesome,
made
Todd.
me feel good. I honestly think Peter did enjoy it, because a lot of times they'll tell you, anybody that's done interviews for magazines and stuff knows this, they'll tell you, you have 20 minutes. And at 20 minutes, it's like, if
Wow.
you're not done, they might just say, hey, look, 20 minutes is up. But I think they kind of do that as a safety net
Oh, sure.
in case
Sure.
they get caught, and someone's like, man, I want to get off of here now.
Yeah.
But Peter and I talked for, well, it was almost an hour and a half. We were just going on and on and on. And I
Wow.
kept saying to him, Peter, if you got to go, man, I can let you
Sure.
go. I'm just, no, this is great. I'm having fun. And he thoroughly seemed like he
Was
enjoyed it.
enjoying the
So that
interview.
was
Good.
very cool.
Good for you. Yeah. No, I compliment you on your interviews. I think your interviews you have such a talent for that, and that's good. You communicate well with these guys, and I think you kind of relate to them, and on a that kind of level, which is good. You're not trying to sell anything, or you know what I'm saying, like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
Randy, you got all the stuff in the background. You also have my buddy Guys
Oh,
magazine that
absolutely.
Robert
Yeah.
Schaffner
Yeah, I
and
do.
Jeff were
Yeah.
featured in about the book. So
Yeah.
I was so glad we were able to make that happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Some great pictures of you in here. You were what, 19?
yeah, maybe. Yeah, me and Johnny Winter, who, man, that was
Yeah.
another cool one to hang out with him.
Yeah. And the Howlin' Wolf one is in here. I mean, this is just great stuff. I mean, yeah. You're 29 in this picture, 19
Yeah.
in the other one. I mean, yeah. No, this is just great stuff. I mean, like I said, anybody gets a chance to read any of this stuff, or you do a phenomenal job. You really do. I mean, it's like,
Oh, well, thanks, Randy. What
I gotta get your autograph on this stuff. So,
so you guys
yeah.
will see. So should we? I suppose we should be winding down. They say the laws, suggestions of YouTube are not to go on and on forever. But this is great. Thanks to everybody that tuned in, checked in,
Absolutely.
joined us. What is it? I would say tuned in, but that comes from like the old school days of whatever. You know what I mean? But thanks for Simon, Robert Schaffner,
Oh,
All About
yes.
Music, who I believe is Connie, unless we've been hacked. What were these All About Music people? Who else did we have? Victor, my man. Thank you for joining us. I know I saw you back up here. I'm scrolling through. Yeah, thanks, Simon, so much. Publicly want to thank Andrew, Simon, Brad, the 5150 show. Check those guys out. Love
Oh,
those guys. Awesome. If you like anything remotely, what we're talking about here, but probably in a more structured setting, which hopefully we're going to get to. This is my first one. I wanted to keep this loose and just come out here. But check out the 5150 show, those guys.
those
With
guys
Andrew,
are great.
Brad. I'll try to put this will be played again on the replay and stuff in a while. I know it takes a while for YouTube to process it or whatever, but if you're watching this on the playback, I'll put the link below to the 5150 show with Andrew and Simon and Brad. Just awesome. Those guys are just phenomenal. And I thank them for having me, Bob, Jeff. We've all been on there and we all love the show. Great guys, obviously very knowledgeable. Simon filling us in on many things here today. So we appreciate the rock professor. Robert Schaffner, Jeff Lowenthal, get the book. If you don't already have it, if you do, get another copy.
Yes.
I know I've got like 20 of these things floating around here. They're just everywhere. So you can just be like, oh, wow, I feel like checking out some of these photos. I do. I mean, I've looked at it a million times and it never gets old. I pick this thing up like every day.
And then definitely grab the CDs and listen, read the book and listen to the CDs at the same time. I mean, it's just, it's phenomenal.
November 12th, join us down at Reggie's. Bob and Jeff will be there signing the book. So I'll put all the links below to this of what we talked about today. I'll try to put Colin Escott's book links and the BB book and all that so you can pick it up too. But I'll also put the link to those Reggie's tickets November 12th at Reggie's. I paused there for a second, YouTube, sorry. But November 12th at Reggie's, come down and join us. Like I said, Bob and Jeff will be there signing the book. Blues Crusaders will be playing at 8 o'clock, and then Connie and I are doing an acoustic set at 7 o'clock. And so I'm guessing I'm going to say doors open at 6, Bob. I don't know.
Maybe Bob knows.
I should know. I do know this, but I'll be there like in the morning with a donut and coffee. So I don't know what time, but I'm going to say 6 o'clock. Ooh, Jeff Lowenthal is here in the house.
Oh, hi, Jeff. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, Victor, thanks so much, my man. Thanks for joining us. And yes, check it out later. Victor, thanks for your support. Victor's been on with me from day one since I started this channel and always comments and awesome. Victor, man, thank you for your support. Yes. Great guy, and I really appreciate it. But Jeff Lowenthal is in the house. Man, now I kind of want to stay on.
Yeah, right now I'm like, hey, we got him on here.
Yeah, legendary Jeff Lowenthal. Who
can you click me off and put him on?
I know Randy was holding the CDs up there a while ago, which are kind of Jeff's been here from the start. There you go.
Yeah.
Love it. But yeah, there's Jeff's, and like we always talk about, which you guys hear me say all the time, the magnifying glass story. That's how it was with what Randy's got, but on the old vinyl.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I found a copy of that for $1, which I believe was the second one I found first. I'd sit there in my bedroom. And I remember, this is how bad it was, people. I remember like looking at through the magnifying glass and having like a disposable camera trying to take a picture of it through the magnifying glass so that maybe I could get those developed. Really, like that was ever even going to work. So then, of course, you got the film back and it's like, wow, or you'd go to get the film.
Epic fail.
Right. Like, none of your pictures were there, sir. We just had an empty bunch of pictures. What was that you turned in? But that's how bad it was. So I always tell this story when I first heard that this book was coming out it came out last year. Not quite at this time yet, I don't believe. It was about a month from now or so, couple months. Earlier in 2022, when I had seen it was coming out, I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, am I reading this right? These are the pictures no, this guy was just floored. And then I reached out to Jeff and Bob and it's just amazing. I say that all the time. Many of you, Simon, Andrew, Randy, that are on this show, we've all kind of come together through that book and ultimately through Jeff's photographs. So it's I love it when stuff like that happens. It's like little did I know as a kid looking at these pictures through a magnifying glass that it only took 54 years to get it done, like Bob said. But wow.
You got it done though. That's the most important thing. Like you guys always talk about, it got done, and it's there and we got it, and that's the most important thing. So.
Well, right. And the fact that Jeff is getting, and he deserves way more attention than he's getting, but we'll take anything that he's getting. But the fact that, like, that's just the greatest thing to see, because these pictures are just, and I've talked to Jeff about that nowadays. When you take pictures, like if they sent me in, I'd have a camera and you just push the button and it's going, and you're basically getting a flip book of, if these pictures are great. It's like, I hope so. You just took 2 million pictures in the 2 seconds, so you're bound to get something. Jeff, you know, has the eye. You know, I a lot of guys, I don't have that. You know, I take one picture, people are like, what is this? This looks terrible. You know, so I mean, he went in doing that in the day, back in the day, and look at those photos. They're just phenomenal. I mean, that's a gift. That's an art. You know, some you either have it or you don't, and Jeff does. So that's like awesome. So what else we talk? Things coming up. I hope to do this again. Comment even later on, you guys, after this on the replay. You could still comment. Is there a better time and day to go live? I know a lot of people were going to come on today, and they said, I don't know if I'll get to come on because the Bears are playing, which I didn't even consider. So I'm like, really? You're going to pick the Bears over this? Come on. No. But I didn't even think of, I'm like, oh, geez, I forgot football's on Sunday. Wow. Is there a better day, time to go? Some people said weekdays, but it's like people are working. And then do you really want to do, okay, so this is good for Simon. Sundays are good. I love having you here. So that's good to know. But I mean, I'd like to do more. So, but we'll do this again. I love doing this. I haven't done one so far. As I said at the start of this thing, our channel's still kind of new, but I kept saying at 500 subscribers, we're going live. So we're here, but I want to keep doing this as it keeps growing. But thank you first and foremost, everybody that's helped me get to 500, everybody in the comments, obviously. And then whoever could make it, if you're watching this on the playback. All I'm looking to do is get on here like we're doing right now and talk about music and our love for it. Very similar to our friends on the 5150 show. It's just great to meet other music lovers, guitar lovers, and just talk about this stuff. It's just, it's a really cool thing to be able to do.
Totally agree.
On the internet nowadays. But yeah, what would you guys like to talk about for future? My wife Connie is texting me with ideas. Thank God for Connie, because my brain is on vacation. What little is left, but she said, ask people what topics they would like to talk about. So yeah, even if you guys aren't on now and you're watching this on the playback, comment. The show is Guitar Talk, so I always try to do guitar reviews, but I learned real quick that, like, I got to do a little bit more than that. Just guitar after guitar after guitar. First of all, you know, you're going to run out of guitars here of people that are bringing them in for me to set up or whatever. So that's why I kind of started doing the TV tray sessions. Simon, if you'd like a guest in the future, I'm all over that. I will be in touch, because I would love to get Simon on for sure. Without a doubt, I will definitely take you up on that. Check out my interview with Bob and Jeff. They've been on here before, but we did the interview and then I published it. But if you scroll through my interviews, artist interviews, Jeff and Bob are on there, where we talk all about the book and stuff. But I would love to get both of them, or even individual, whatever, on too. So yeah, we'll definitely be having more guests. Randy, you guys, give a round of applause to Randy. Thanks for coming on. Randy will definitely be back without a doubt.
Oh, thank you. We'll see. We'll see what the comments say.
You're like holding up a sign on the side in your house. It's, what the heck did I get myself into? Save me. Shut my laptop. Cut the power. But no, Randy will definitely be back, because he's always around.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome
I love this. Yeah.
yeah,
I could talk all day
guests
about
in the
this
future,
stuff.
any future topics. I love music memorabilia, which I know kind of walks a fine line. The other day, I put a Otis Redding contract up, and I think a lot of people might be like, "Isn't this guitar talk?" Like, well, first of all, Otis obviously played guitar. And if you know anything about Otis, the guy playing music behind him was the great Steve Cropper. So, end of conversation. I mean, Steve, come on. That's one of the all-time greats. So it's like right.
It just goes on and on. You know what I mean? Like this, it's such a big spectrum. Like I can't, like guitar players and artists, and it just that's why you could just be here all day. You could just talk. You know, there's so much out there.
Well, I know I originally had said we'll do a half hour, 45 minutes. We're coming up on, I think, an hour and a half now,
Oh my God.
which is an hour and 20 minutes. It goes by so well. Same thing with Andrew when we've been on his show. I know, he'll say like it's an hour and a half, and I'm like, hour and a half. Feels like we've been talking for 15 minutes. It's just crazy how. But I know, even going back to the years before this, when I'd meet, like I said, you drive 300 miles to get a dollar album from a guy, and maybe you'd meet another guy there that was into the same thing, and then you'd go to grab a cup of coffee or something, and pretty soon they'd be like, guys, we're closing in 10 minutes if you want. It's like, wait, what? How long? We've been 7 hours. We haven't been in here. It's crazy how the time. I know I say Bob, who just told me it's going to cost me to have him on.
Oh,
but Bob and I are the same way. I talked to him on the phone last week, and I'm like, holy cow, like it's just unbelievable.
I should have talked to Bob earlier because I paid you to be on this. That doesn't make much sense here. I don't.
Yes, the time goes by quick when you're with good people, and we certainly are here. So thanks to all you guys for coming on today. Comment, let me know if there's anything in the future you want to talk about as a subject, different things to get off in. We'll always have guitars and stuff, of course. Cool. But and just thanks to everyone for your support. This is so cool to be doing this and just have good people on board that love music like we do. So
absolutely.
But yeah, make it to the Reggie's gig November 12th. I'll put the links below to that. As far as local things going on, open mic next Tuesday. But if you're not in the Chicago area, you're probably not going to come.
Take a plane.
I drove across the country to get to $1 vinyl. You could drive across the country to come to open mic. No,
I'll let you play the Johnny Cash guitar if anybody shows up.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Open mic. Connie and I, Digs on Canal. I got to give a shout out to our home base every Saturday, 6 to 9. Connie and I are at Digs on Canal in Lamont, Illinois. So be there. Thanks so much, you guys. Please hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Help me out. It's just all about what we're doing right now and getting more people on board with us. So, but thanks so much, you guys. Randy, thanks for coming on, man. And,
absolutely. What an honor. Yeah.
Thanks to Connie for the help with telling me what to talk about. But Simon, Bob, Victor, Jeff, everybody on here today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for checking in. And we'll see you guys again. As I always love to say, stay safe and love your dogs.
Absolutely.
If you got dogs, love them today. And a happy birthday, Hank Williams, 100 today. We'll never forget. But thanks so much, you guys. We will see you again. Thanks for joining us. And be safe. Enjoy your Sunday.
Have a good day.